When the state flipped the switch on Alan Lee Davis, they weren't just executing a killer, they were shocking the entire nation. Blood poured from his face, flames sparked from his body. Witnesses recoiled. This was supposed to be justice, but what unfolded in Florida's execution chamber left many wondering if the punishment was even more disturbing than the crime. Before we dive into the chilling details, make sure to subscribe if you're fascinated by true crime stories that leave you speechless, and hit that bell so you never miss a case. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Alan Lee Davis was born on July 20th, 1944, in Jacksonville, Florida, and long before his name became synonymous with one of the most gruesome executions in modern history, he already had a reputation. His rap sheet was extensive: armed robbery, attempted armed robbery, the use of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and involuntary manslaughter. But what made his past even more disturbing was his documented history of child abuse. It's honestly unsettling to think how someone with a record this dark, especially crimes against children, could ever be granted parole. You have to wonder, how many warning signs were ignored? Still, despite this violent and perverse history, Davis was released on parole, a decision that, in hindsight, would cost a family their lives. On the morning of May 11th, 1982, Davis carried out a crime so horrific it would haunt everyone involved in the investigation for years. His intended target was 9-year-old Christina Weiler, and his admitted goal was to sexually assault and murder her. Then, he planned to kill her younger sister, 5-year-old Catherine, and finally their mother, Nancy Weiler. He would then rob the house and leave no witnesses behind. Davis arrived at the Weilers' Jacksonville home armed with a .357 Magnum. He beat Nancy Weiler more than 25 times in the face and head. She was 3 months pregnant at the time. Reports say she was beaten almost beyond recognition. Christina was shot twice in the face. Catherine, the youngest, tried to run, but Davis caught her, shot her, and then beat her in the head with the gun until her skull caved in. That part always stops me cold. The image of a 5-year-old trying to escape. It's horrifying. These weren't just victims. They were little girls who deserved to grow up. John Weiler, Nancy's husband and the father of the 2 girls, called Davis a deviant animal that should have been permanently caged or executed many years before May 1982. Davis was arrested, tried, and sentenced to death. But his story was far from over. What happened on July 8, 1999, would put him back in headlines. Not for what he did in life, but for how he died. That day, Alan Lee Davis became the last person executed by electric chair in the state of Florida. And it was a scene straight out of a horror film. Witnesses watched as Davis was strapped into Old Sparky, a crude wooden electric chair that had been used by the state for decades. He weighed in at around 350 pounds, and when the first jolt of electricity surged through him, blood immediately poured from his nose. His white shirt turned crimson. There were burns on his leg, his head, his groin. Some witnesses claimed he was still breathing after the electricity had stopped. No matter how you feel about the death penalty, something about this scene feels medieval. You start questioning whether this was justice being served or a system gone off the rails. Prison officials, of course, pushed back. They said the blood came from a simple nosebleed, one Davis had been dealing with before the execution. They also noted he had been taking blood-thinning medication, which may have made the situation appear worse than it was. But the imagery was impossible to ignore. The electricity used was significant and carefully measured. According to engineers, the first wave delivered 1,500 volts at 10 amps for 8 seconds, then 600 volts for 22 seconds, then back up to 1,500 volts for another 8 seconds. All told, 299.4 kilojoules of energy surged through his body in just 38 seconds, the kind of power capable of frying internal organs. After Davis's execution, Florida Supreme Court Justice Leander Shaw took an extraordinary step. In a dissenting opinion, he released photographs of Davis's body after the execution, burned, bloodied, grotesque, and declared that the man had been brutally tortured to death by the citizens of Florida. The backlash was instant. The public and media erupted in debate. Was this justice, or was it inhumane? The answer, in part, came with action. Later that same year, another death row inmate, Thomas Harrison Provenzano, used Davis's execution as part of his argument to challenge the use of the electric chair as unconstitutional under cruel and unusual punishment. And even though the Florida Supreme Court ultimately upheld the electric chair as a legal method of execution, the writing was on the wall. Beginning in 2000 with the execution of Terry Melvin Sims, Florida switched to lethal injection as its primary method. While inmates can still choose electrocution, few have. In fact, as of 2024, only one inmate, Wayne C. Doty, has opted for the chair. His execution date, however, has yet to be scheduled. That moment kind of marked a turning point. It's like the state realized, maybe not publicly, but practically, that something had to change. As for Davis, his final meal was as gluttonous as it was symbolic. 1 lobster tail, fried potatoes, a half-pound of fried shrimp, 6 ounces of fried clams, half a loaf of garlic bread, and a big ice-cold A&W root beer. There's always something surreal about death row meals. It's a bizarre ritual, this final indulgence before total finality, almost like a farewell dinner before the curtain falls. Alan Lee Davis's case continues to spark debate today, not just about the death penalty itself, but about the methods used in the line between justice and cruelty. His crimes were vile. His execution, many argue, was just as grotesque. And somewhere between those two extremes lies the uncomfortable truth about capital punishment in America. And that's where things get murky, right? Can justice be so brutal that it turns into something else entirely? I'm genuinely curious what you think, because stories like this don't offer easy answers. Stories like this stick in the national memory not just because of who Alan Lee Davis was, but because they force us to look at ourselves. What are we willing to accept in the name of justice? What does it cost, morally, socially, psychologically, to carry out a sentence like this? Maybe there aren't clear answers, but asking the questions, that might be the most human thing we can do. Thanks for watching. If you found this story disturbing, thought-provoking, or both, make sure to give it a like and share it with someone who follows true crime. Don't forget to subscribe for more cases like this one, and let me know in the comments. Was this justice served or a punishment gone too far? Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.